Abbas. They're brothers who live right here in our annual conference, but were born in Liberia, in Harrisburg, outside of Monrovia, the capital. Pride, Dogba is one of our pastors in our East Ohio Conference and serving on the east side of Cleveland. Pride and Dogba want to help their hometown of Harrisburg. They want to, after the war in Liberia, they want to get it back up on its feet, producing agriculture again. So they've partnered with farmers here in Ohio and farmers in Liberia to start doing some cooperative things together. And one of the first things we're going to do is send a tractor over to Liberia with some agricultural equipment, and then send some people there to help them learn how to work and manipulate tools better so they can farm better. They're doing whatever it takes to make life better for their people and for their family in Liberia. Camphor Mission is the place where I have served and where Jean has traveled to visit. There's a school, there's a clinic, there's an agriculture program, and there's a church on the Camphor Mission Station. Future United Methodist volunteer and missions teams include someone that some of you know. Does anyone remember Elizabeth Lowe? She was one of the daughters of associate pastor here at this church, and she was probably born into this congregation and baptized. Well, now she's 16 years old and getting ready to get on an airplane to be a part of our next trip to Liberia. And she's doing whatever it takes, sacrificing some fun things at home, making t-shirts, sacrificing birthday presents so that she can raise money to go, and doing whatever it takes to get there to Liberia to help make a difference. Kevin Shaner is a former librarian of one of their schools in Ohio, is doing whatever it takes to get to Liberia to teach teachers and students the joy of reading and how to use books in their classrooms. Janet is a volunteer from the Brecksville United Methodist Church who was excited and has been to Camphor now 2 times, teaching teachers how to use manipulatives and objects in their classroom and how to tutor students one-on-one so that learning and thriving are more possible. Jack is a volunteer from the Geneva United Methodist Church who was a horticulturalist up in Lake County and is excited about sharing his agriculture skills with the agriculture department at the Camphor Mission Station, teaching them to use the rototiller and giving them confidence that a machine can finish something in 2 hours that they would have taken 2 weeks to finish. And Gary Olin, again, another former associate pastor here at the Worcester United Methodist Church, has been to Camphor Mission Station to help build a memorial for his deceased wife, Judy, who also served as a pastor in our annual conference. Gary helped to do whatever it took to make sure that her memory lives on. And Danny, my husband, who worked alongside Mr. Baugh, our construction person, did whatever it took to make sure that that house got built. My husband is a physician, not a builder. He's not a handyman. But he did whatever it took to make sure the supplies and the resources got to Camphor on a bad road from a village or from the main town village city that was 12 miles away, and there's no Home Depot at the Camphor Mission Station or anywhere in Liberia. We made our own bricks, and we had our struggles, but we did whatever it took to complete the house where the Reverend Dr. Judith Olin's guest house now stands. It's where we stayed and where we slept, where we hosted teams of people when we were there this last January and February. It's where you could come and stay when you travel to the Camphor Mission Station. The third block is now almost up to roof level, and we're moving on in that construction as well. My husband, Danny, teaches about health at the district conference and clergy events, trying to use any time and any opportunity he can to teach about clean drinking water, vaccination, and how to prevent diseases like malaria and HIV/AIDS. Milea Toby, the officer in charge at the clinic, uses the kerosene scheme to keep the refrigerator cold. We don't have running water, and we don't have electricity at the Camphor Mission Station. And so in order to keep vaccinations cold, in order for them to be effective, you have to have a kerosene refrigerator, and you have to have enough kerosene to keep that lit all the time for your vaccinations to stay cold. Not an easy task when you don't have much operating budget. Sarah Forsythe is a volunteer who came from Baltimore Annual Conference to work at the Camphor Mission Station as a nurse. She made sacrifices in her own personal life and did whatever it took to learn about life in Liberia so she could come home and tell the story and to advocate for people who were sick and needing help. The traditional birth attendance, the TBA training program that the Denver Trinity United Methodist Church helps to sponsor, allows for babies to be delivered more safely, allows education and opportunity for advancement for our local ladies in the village that are doing most of the deliveries to learn. Jean has already talked about Jordan, and this is her there with me, who raises money and tries to do whatever it takes to raise as much money for water wells as possible. She's put in 4 water wells in 4 of the surrounding villages. In Goba, these children are blessed. In Duo, these children are now drinking clean water. Krangar Town and Guazio Town children now all have a water pump in their village and clean access to water, which means they can come to school and not have runny stomachs because they've been drinking this dirty water. It means they can come to school and they can thrive and they can learn, and if they get sick from something else, they're not already malnutritioned because of the bad water they're drinking. And Jordan so inspired the Brecksville United Methodist Church to put a water in this next village in Mofle, which is completed by now. We have to dig during the dry season, which is January, February, March, and so those wells go in during those times. And now the Seville United Methodist Church, when I went there last fall and told them about Jordan, they felt challenged, and an anonymous donor in their congregation said, if the children can raise money for one, I'll pay for another one. And so I've since been back there this April, and they presented me with a check for 2.5 water wells in the surrounding villages of Camphor. We have people doing whatever it takes for water. Now we need people to do whatever it takes for salary support, for feeding our students. Our teachers right now have not been paid for the last 2 months for a variety of reasons, but we need people to do whatever it takes to help meet other needs at the Camphor Mission Station. The next picture is a picture of me being the business manager. You know, I said my husband wasn't very handy. I'm not very savvy with money and numbers either. But I did whatever it took to answer God's call on my life to do what they needed me to do at Camphor and get the books in order and start salary being paid on a regular basis sometimes. Lindsay Brown is a volunteer that's at Camphor right now. She arrived on January 15th. She's from Galveston, Texas, and she's doing whatever it takes for these kids to know the love of Jesus Christ. She's made relationships over these last 4 or 5 months with the girls in the dormitory and some of the staff, and done Bible study with them and counseling kinds of times. And she is living her faith out there in the trenches in Liberia. The Mentor United Methodist Church, where I am appointed, spent some time raising funds during the Kentucky Derby time. We all got our Kentucky Derby hats out and drank our mint juleps. And instead of betting on the horses, we bet on Camphor Mission. And we watched Seabiscuit and had a good time. These are people that have never gotten their shots to go to Liberia or had to pay for a visa or paid about $1,500 for a plane ticket. They're people, ordinary people, that are doing extraordinary things, that are doing whatever it takes to make a difference at the Camphor Mission Station right where they're sitting. The United Methodist Women at Mentor hosted an event and made birthing kits for us to take, educated people about Liberia. We Skyped in with Sarah, because by that time that nurse Sarah Forsythe was home, and she Skyped in with us and talked about her experience there. We wrote letters to the people at Camphor on Jordan's stationery cards that she sells to raise money for water wells, and we made bracelets for the kids at the Camphor Mission Station. Ways to build relationships right here on this side of the ocean. The people at Faith United Methodist Church in North Canton are doing whatever it takes by making pillowcase dresses for the children at the Camphor Mission Station. We sent 120 some of those dresses on our last container. People are making baby blankets for the women who deliver at our clinic. They're making baby dolls to give to the women who deliver at our clinic. We just recently loaded a container with over 300 backpacks to be able to give to all, filled with school supplies and socks and washcloths and toothbrushes things that they'll be able to use, and we'll be able to give one to every single one of our students at Camphor in the fall of next year. A part of that container was Worcester United Methodist Church. We took some folding chairs and some tables and some chalkboards and other items that you all donated and brought up to our storage location and made possible for the people at the Camphor Mission Station, and we are thankful. Not only do you send chairs and tables, but you send volunteers like Jean. And as I talk to people in the fellowship hall, I know that there are others that are interested in maybe traveling there. The next slide is a picture of Jean worshiping on a Sunday morning at one of our rural churches located about 4 miles from the Camphor Mission Station. And then Jean in the next slide with some other women, Lucille and Irene, some of the people on the Camphor Mission Station, building relationships, making a difference at the Camphor Mission Station. We're to love all people. We're to do whatever it takes to make a difference in the world. You can get on an airplane, or you can stay here at home and be a part of that. Some people are, in this congregation is already doing that as you sign up for the Nehemiah Project and the Change the World event on May 14th. You're doing it right here, offering hope and salvation, an opportunity to come to worship and to make life different for some people. Some people are giving money. Some people are using their talents, and some people are becoming friends with people. What are you doing? Are you doing whatever it takes to make ministry possible right here in Worcester, Ohio at Worcester United Methodist Church? Sometimes doing whatever it takes is also about educating. Sometimes it's about tough love and saying no. Sometimes it's about partnering and empowering rather than simply just doing for somebody what